Hello everyone, Mike here from the Nutmeg Division. If you attended our February meeting down in Essex, you know I got spending a lot of time up and moving around while I was doing my Boxcar roof clinic. So I figured I would re-record that for you here at my workbench so that you can see kind of exactly what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and give you a more complete view of the process that's not from across the room. So to start, what I'm going to do is I'll show you first what I'm working with in terms of supplies. For this example, I'm actually going to be weathering an Atlas 50-foot double-door Evans boxcar, which I have a reference photo right here of the exact car from my modeling era. Additionally, I have my paint supplies here. So the nice thing about this technique for the boxcar weathering is I just use standard craft acrylics that you can get at your big box store. So, these are art supply, crafts type paints. So you can get them at art supply stores. You can get them at the big box stores. They're inexpensive. There's a wide variety of colors, and they're relatively easy to find at a very good price. So I typically use like apple barrel paints. These are available at Walmart. And this color nutmeg is a nice medium brown that I kind of use for a lot of stuff. So we're going to be using that color quite a bit today. I also use, this is apple barrel chocolate bar. So it's a nice dark brown. I use, this is actually an Americana from, I think, Michael's. So it's an orange. This is just a regular kind of medium canyon orange, I think it's called. And then another color, a couple colors I do tend to use very sparingly is occasionally I'll throw in like a purple. If you get to looking at photos of real boxcar roofs, there's hints of purple now and then. So I do kind of use that on occasion. I do have like black and white over here, but to be honest with you, I tend not to use those very often because they're so drastic in terms of color that nothing's ever pure black or pure white. So I do almost everything with those four colors, the two browns, orange, and a little bit of purple. You can blend them all with white. That's the only time you'd really want to use black or white, is to blend the colors a little bit, but I don't even do that. One thing of note, this car, because it's one of the new, I think it's a Master line, this is a relatively new car. It's already got the roof painted silver, so kind of a flat silver, which is nice. So I'm not going to do anything to prep this car because it already comes that way. And a lot of newer cars will obviously do that. But that's not the case if you're working with some older cars, or maybe you're working with a car that's got a painted roof. So in that instance, I use this apple barrel granite gray as kind of the base coat. And what that does is it does just gives you a silverish gray kind of base coat to work with, which we're going to weather on top. So one note when you do that is you're going to want to make sure that you let the gray fully set. So as an example, this is an Athearn rail box. This is an old blue box kit. And like a lot of old kits, it was molded in the black the car color was in. So all I did was come in and paint the roof with that granite gray. As I come in, you can actually see the edges are kind of rough because all I did was I dry brushed from the center out, and that gets a little bit of that overspray look. So this is kind of where we're heading to go. Actually, here's another example. This is another Atlas boxcar. This is an old Evans one from a couple years ago. So this is kind of where we're going to be heading. It's still got a little bit of a shine to it. This will be taken down later when I'm able to get outside and get some clear flat on this. But this is kind of where we're heading. So let's jump right into weathering. Like I said, with my Willamette Industries boxcar here, it's already got the silver roof, so we're going to jump right into painting. So my first color, I'm going to bring out the nutmeg. This is my base color for a lot of things. So I'm going to go put a little bit of that here in my paint tray. One thing of note when you're doing this with the paint is you don't need a whole lot of paint. This technique is somewhere between a dry brushing and kind of like a stippling technique. So we use very little paint. This is a relatively new car in 1982, which is where I model. So I'm going to be very spare. I'm not going to paint the whole thing with this color. So I'm going to start with a little bit of paint on, I just use cheap brushes. I don't even know if you can see that, but you don't need a whole lot of paint. As if you were doing dry brushing, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to start by stippling, which is just a vertical poking motion with the brush down on the roof. So I tend to work from the center out, kind of randomly, as randomly as the human mind will work anyway, because it's really meant to recognize patterns. And I'm going to do a few panels at a time. So you can see there, nothing too crazy. I'm just working panel by panel. I'm probably doing about 4, maybe 5 panels here, and mixing in different colors. Now, I'm just kind of, again, it's very random. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to repeat it. What I am going to do next is I've already got some orange here in my paint tray. I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill in around the brown in some spots. But again, doing random splotches here and there, painting different things, overlapping, letting it blend. That's the nice thing about these paints is they, you know, if you were to use oils give you a lot of working time. These acrylics tend to dry pretty quick, so they only blend to a certain amount, but they end up giving you a nice little bit of blending while you do it, and then they harden and layer on top of each other. So you can see here, I'm just kind of mixing in the orange and the brown and playing with the colors a little bit. I already have some of the chocolate in here in my paint tray, so I'm going to come back in and very sparingly. You want the darkest colors to be very sparing. So you can see here I'm kind of blending in, adding some splotches of color on different places. And there you go. Now, I know that kind of looks like I just painted a whole bunch of stuff in a really quick amount of time. But there is another part to this technique which we're going to do. And we're going to end up cleaning up that randomness and making it look a little bit more like rust. So I have my big kind of fluff brush here. One thing I should note about the brushes is a lot of people, when they paint, every time they switch color, they'll rinse the brush out. I'm not doing that because the blending of color is actually really important, and there's a natural blending that occurs when you just switch from color to color to color. So you get a lot of the real rust variations that are out there. So, like I said, I've got my 3 colors on here. I don't know if I can grab some of the purple, actually. I'll put a little splash of the purple in a few spots. And then what I'm going to do is take my big fluffy brush, and I'm just going to work in swirling motions up and down the roof from the center out. So I'm starting in the center and fluffing it out to the sides. And what this is doing is blending the color, maybe removing it, picking up a little bit, moving it in places. I'm going to stipple it in, and I'm getting some nice roof texture there. And you get all those fibers moving, all the edges. So nice little blend of color there. I'm going to go back. So I've got those 4 panels done. I'll keep working down the roof. Again, just being random, painting on different patterns of color. You know, maybe one panel you want to go super heavy on, or you go super heavy on one side. You know, boxcars weather, all freight cars weather differently. So they weather depending on where they are, where they've been. You know, maybe they sit underneath a leaky roof gutter at some point. A guy with a forklift dings the rack of the forklift off the roof. There's a wide variety of things that can happen. So just kind of play with it a little. As with all weathering, you definitely want to quit while you're ahead and not go too in-depth and crazy, because you can very easily overdo it. So I've got this one panel, which I'm actually rusting like the whole panel. And then I've got some other ones which have some different colors. And you can see different shades, and it even blends out into kind of like a red there. So I'm going to come back with my big fluffy brush, and that's dry again. I'm just wiping it off as if I'm dry brushing. And little circular motions up and down the roof, blending color out to the edges. And pretty nice. And you can come in and you can dry brush and feather it out towards the edge like that. You can pull the color in all sorts of different directions, which will get you some nice variations, some nice rust patterns. It's not as readily apparent through the camera because I have so many lights on so you can see what I'm doing, but this is actually looks really good when you take away a little bit of the shine. So you can see there, I've blended out a lot of the color. You got some different flashes of orange and brown and even a little red. I'm actually going to come back with my small brush, and I've got some chocolate in here, and I'm just going to paint in, and I'm not going to blend these out later. I'm not going to blend them out with the big brush. I'm painting dark patches on top of what I've just done. And I'm using the same stippling technique in different places and just adding little bits of paint. And it's very crucial to keep the motion very much along the tapping side. And we end up with some darker rust spots in places. You could do this with the lighter colors too. It's always helpful when you're doing this, as with any weathering. You want to work in small areas and work in small amounts. And if you're not feeling it, if it's not working right, come back later, you know. That is the one thing nice about these paints is, you know, you can quit while you're ahead before you screw it up, or, you know, these are acrylics, so they'll wash off with water if you do it quick enough. So blend these out a little bit, not as much as I just did earlier. So a little bit of dry brushing towards the end, that always helps. That'll blend things out. You can see I've got different levels of patching, different levels of rust in places. So that's our base coat. I say base, we've just done a lot there. I'm actually going to rinse off the little brush because I'm done with that one for the moment. And then next I'm going to move to a large flat brush, an angled flat brush like this is about a 1/2 inch wide. And we're going to actually do some true dry brushing with this. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab a little bit of the nutmeg, the brown, and maybe a little bit of orange, blend that together and dry brush that out. And I'm actually going to start, make note of where you start on the roof. I'm just going to pull across in a true dry brushing motion from both sides. And all this is going to do is tone down the silver, which you haven't painted on, because we've done all this work over the center of the car, but we have the edge of the roof that's very silvery still. So we're going to just add some dry brushing effects to the rest of the roof. And you could come back and do this with white or, you know, black or whatever other colors you might have at your disposal when you do this. Definitely a technique that's very forgiving, as I said. So we'll just keep blending and adding color. One thing I actually do, I quite enjoy, I think the orange really brings out the fresh rust look. So I'll come in with some orange here and dry brush across, because orange kind of gives that hue you can see over here on this panel versus that one. You got some silver, and then I've just toned down the silver with some orange. I think, you know, a lot of people, they use, from my experience, they use, you know, you hear all the time about burnt sienna, raw sienna, burnt umber, raw umber, and that's about it. I think by adding orange, orange gives you a flavor of fresh rust that's hard to capture in a lot of other ways. Because that's really, I mean, not that, you know, rust is truly orange, but it's more orange than some of those other colors are, and it depends on the light, of course. So I'm going to come in just to do the whole roof with orange in spots and touch kind of some things and touch the edge of the roof. I'm actually kind of pulling up before I get to the center of the roof panel on this end, just because I want the edge to carry some of that rust and not much else. So there you are. Nice, easy roof technique. I'm actually going to come back and do the rest of this car, because this car, according to the photos, kind of got a nice brown color all over it. So But that's the way you do the roof. You can see there how that kind of came out. And I'll post this along with some photos of the cars that I've done on the Nutmeg Division Facebook and Instagram pages, so you can see more. So thank you for watching, and give it a try. Let me know what you think.